Hi, my name is Louise.
And hi, I'm Emma.
And you're listening to Murder or Myth,
the true crime podcast where not everything is true.
The aim of the game is to find out whether the story is actually a murder or if it's just a myth.
Now, let's get started. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Emma.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad now. Excited to get into another murder or myth story.
Me too.
Okay, so this is the disaster at the Orvieu Factory in Lyon, France. So this story is based in 1950s France, just as the Second World War is over and the country is rebuilding. So the Orvieu Factory was a textiles factory which was set up by Jacques Orvieu in 1890. Apologies to any of our French listeners.
So many French listeners.
Yeah, I think we do. We've reached,
Absolutely.
Since being on Spotify.
Since being on Spotify. If you didn't hear that in our last episode.
Hashtag not sponsors, but
Avoid the global reach.
So I'm just saying them as I can say them. So the factory produced cotton reams originally and employed basically anyone that would work for them. They offered small pay, was kind of the standard at the time.
Okay.
So child labour was rampant and many people just died as a result of the workplace accidents or side effects. So the World Wars impacted the factory's output, as some of the workforce were enlisted to fight and others were killed in the fighting, and the factory shut down from 1941 to 45. Once the dust settled on the World Wars, France began returning to its normality, and so did the Orvieu Factory.
Okay, once the war was over.
Yeah. So here comes Arnaud, which is the son of Jacques.
Okay.
So he decided to reopen the Orvieu Factory. Like many others, he had seen an opportunity to come back stronger than before with the business, and like more people were just like willing to start buying stuff again, no more rationings and what have you. So he reopened the factory and they started producing their cotton again, but he also decided to repurpose half the factory to move into the garment manufacturing space.
Okay.
So his business was now half between making the fabric, like the raw material, and sewing shirts. The business was booming and employed as many people as it ever had. Women, men, children worked 6 days a week, 48 hours. So workers began highlighting less than ideal working conditions in the new sewing factory. Many claims and issues were disregarded by local authorities. And it was well known at the time the Orvieu family were very prominent due to their factories, their businesses, that they kind of had the local government in their pockets.
Yeah, high in power kind of vibes.
Yeah, kind of everyone's
Local
on their
power.
side. Yeah. So, So, for example, an account of the conditions was published in a local newspaper, the Lyon Republican. The anonymous account said, "I've seen a boy lose an arm to the looms and myself have lost 2 digits. I hold myself lucky as many have lost life and I fear more will." So the conditions are less than ideal, but the new sewing room expansion gave more jobs to the area, more money for Arnaud, but everyone's kind of happy enough because people can get more money, work, what have you. So there's 350 workers at the factory total.
Okay.
So now it's the 15th of May 1952 and disaster strikes. At 3 p.m. a call is rang into the local fire station that a fire had broke out on the 3rd floor of the Orvieu factory building. The ground floor and 2nd floor workers were alerted to the fire by those fleeing down from the 3rd floor, and the escape routes available to the others were 2 sets of manned elevators and a flight of stairs on each side of the building. So the fire escalates rapidly due to the sheer amount of fabric in the building. Also wooden buildings, old buildings, just not standard as you have today. The only warning that the sewers on the 4th floor had was the fire itself.
Okay,
so the
how
fire
many floors is there to this building?
Well, there is 6 floors.
6 floors, okay.
Started on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
Halfway up the building. So the workers on the 4th floor were just seeing flames come up through the floorboards. Not ideal. The staircase at the north side of the building had been engulfed by flames, leaving the elevators and 1 stairs left to flee down. The workers
never get an elevator in a fire.
Well, this was the 1950s. They were going to do anything they could,
That's supposed to be a good idea.
There shouldn't be fires.
Yeah, but you shouldn't get in an elevator.
So true. These were more manual elevators. They were less relying on electricity, I'd imagine.
What were they relying on?
Would they be hydraulics, chains and bits?
Interesting. Potentially, yeah.
They were manned,
Okay. But then What if the manned person leaves because it's a fire?
But like they have a duty to like
No,
stay in the
duty goes out
elevator.
when the elevator, once the fire hits you, like.
Okay, well we'll learn
So that
more
makes
about
even
it.
more
Like,
of a
but
worse idea to get into an elevator.
are you gonna die in a fire just because you have like issues about elevators getting in a fire?
You shouldn't get into an elevator fire.
Okay, well let's hear what the story says.
Okay.
Yes, the staircase on the north side of the building was engulfed by flames. So the workers on the fourth floor were helped by the elevator operators. They had managed to escape, but by the time they had been evacuated, like, so the operators go fill up a load, down, up, down, whatever. The fire was already on the fifth floor. So fire services had landed on the scene.
Stairs. Why aren't they all taking the stairs?
Well, there's only one stairs left for
Yeah.
3 floors.
Yeah.
And like people, like, they'd be crushing, there'd be like
There's
immense
only 350 people over, let's say half that, and like
Okay.
that's 175. I
Yeah.
don't feel like that would crush people on a staircase.
Okay. Well, you're assuming that they're all evenly distributed throughout the
I'm
floors.
gonna make that assumption.
Okay, I'll let you have that assumption. But the 3 bottom floors are like raw, large looms producing cotton reams of fabric. So like they're more machinery based and less manned.
People to get down the stairs. But I don't know how big these stairs are, so we'll continue.
Yeah, you don't know.
Still, the elevator does not seem like it would be better than the stairs.
Okay, let's get back into it.
Okay.
The fire services landed on scene to pandemonium and proceeded to try and assist the situation. It's now 10 minutes since the fire started and
What's
the 6
pandemonium?
like hysterics, like all hell broken loose.
Would you include that word? Pandemonium? I've never heard you use it before.
You never heard me say pandemonium?
No.
Well, pandemonium. Okay.
Okay.
Now the flames had all but rendered
Rendered.
Louise.
Such like a descriptive vocabulary.
Okay. Do you not think I have it in me?
Honestly. You do, but I'm just wondering, would you use it?
So fair, so true.
Okay.
Note that down for later.
I'm just noting that down, yeah.
Okay, so the 6th floor can smell smoke and hear sirens. That's how they figure out there's a fire.
Okay.
The flames had all but rendered the remaining workers inside stranded as the 2 elevators seized as a result of the heat.
Mm-hmm.
So where we're at now, little recap. First and third floor sound, they got out. Fourth floor saved. The 5th floor was on fire by the time they were all saved. Anyways, the last staircase quickly became useless as well, as some were overcame by fumes and smoke and blocked it up, causing a pile-up of victims. Becoming aware of the situation, the workers on the 6th floor are forced up to the roof. So about 50 people make it up to the roof, and at this stage the 5th floor is completely on fire. Few try to navigate to the 6th, but unfortunately many victims of the fire came from the 5th floor due to lack of exits. Okay, that's where we're at right now. So the fire trucks start to evacuate people from its windows, but not quick enough, and some resort to jumping from the 5th and 6th floor to escape the heat. Those on the roof are eventually somewhat rescued by some fire brigades, and others resort to jumping down into a neighbouring building's roof, causing many injuries and a few deaths. The people on the 50 on the roof, many got away alive, thank God.
Okay.
The whole ordeal...
How did they get away?
Well, they jumped onto the neighbouring building's roof.
Oh, sorry.
They flew away. Of the 350 workers, 104 died that day, ranging from 14 years old to 47. The whole ordeal lasted just 30 minutes as the fire ripped through the building and its occupants, many of whom, as I said before, were from the 5th floor sewing area. The fire impacted many families in the neighbourhood of Lyon that day. Outrage and protests ensued at the conditions and risks faced by workers in factories of all kinds across the country. Legislator and local government were forced to listen to complaints and issues as the disaster painted them in an awful light. A year later, Arnaud Orvieu was charged with improper maintenance and fire safety of his building and charged to pay 650 francs, which is equivalent to €1,500 today, to each victim's family.
Okay.
So
he was kind of held accountable for it?
Somewhat. He only had to pay, well,
Not
if
that
that's
much,
what
yeah.
you think is accountable, 1,500 per death, basically.
Yeah.
Which was no skin off his back because he was rich.
Okay.
He was not charged with like any manslaughter charges or like,
Yeah.
you know, like killing kind of charges. So it was more like he didn't maintain his building correctly.
Okay.
So that's, yeah. However, in 1953, as a direct result from the Orvieu Factory disaster, the French government passed 4 bills to ensure all factories had an adequate fireproofing, fire extinguishers, safety exits, etc. The COCT stands for Council d'Orientation sur les Conditions de Travail, was set up to regulate the workplaces across France and enforce safety standards, and that is here to this day. Unfortunately, Arnaud got off scot-free except for the minimal payment he had to make to the victims' families, but it kind of changed the industrial French scene for the better. And that's the end of the Orvieu Factory Fire story.
Okay, so let's go to my notes.
Go to your notes.
So you spoke a little bit about the information on the World War impact to the French businesses, which kind of made me think it was a murder, because I wasn't sure if you would think of that.
Yeah, so true. Fair.
And then it continued on with a lot of detail about the business and the business side of things, which also made me think it was real. The account from the boy about losing his digits made me think it was a murder.
Okay.
Because that's not a very common term today.
Yeah.
But maybe you thought of it.
Fair.
And then again, pandemonium rendered made me also think it was a murder.
Okay.
Just because they sound like something you'd read and then include. But maybe you're doing all this to throw me off. The fact at the end about the French health and safety standards made me think it was a myth. Have kind of changed my view. I'm not sure why. But I feel like maybe you put that in to make it seem more like real.
Right.
But I'm gonna go with murder.
You're gonna go with murder?
Yeah.
Okay. It was a myth.
It was a myth?
It was a myth. Yeah.
So much detail.
I know.
Wow.
I slay that one.
Yeah. That was a lengthy one. Yeah, the information about the business. I didn't think you'd think to put that in.
I will say it's heavily inspired by a disaster that happened in New York.
Okay.
But yes, it's the French side of things and that business side of things are kind of made up. But yeah, it was based around...
Did you write the term pandemonium yourself?
Yeah. It's a regular term, Louise.
I know it's a regular term, but it just seems shocking to me.
But right, you land up to a 6-story building that's on fire. People are jumping off the building. People are trying to get away. That's pandemonium.
So, descriptive language, I guess. But slay for you.
Thank you. I'm entering my descriptive era, actually. If you didn't know. No, I did write everything. Sometimes I try to write a bit more professional.
That's so fair. No, that's so fair.
But yeah, I did do that.
Impressive.
Thank you.
That was a really good story.
I thought all those things that you picked up on were going to say myth, we're going to point you in the other direction.
They actually all put me towards murder.
So
yeah.
I'll know for next time. That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm so happy by that.
It's a good episode.
The regulatory body is real. Did not set up after this though, because this is obviously fake.
For sure.
For sure, you know what I mean. But the actual disaster was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory disaster in New York, and it was the same type of issue where there was crowded very badly.
But wasn't it the same thing with 6 floors and all this kind of stuff?
No, the factory was actually in a 14-floor building. It was only the three middle floors type thing, but a fire happened and it went up in flames, and everything was over within, I think it said 10-15 minutes. It was extremely bad. But in that disaster, 146 people unfortunately died, mostly women, but they were actually locked in. 2 of their exits doors were locked.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, so it was very bad. But yeah, so I kind of changed it up a little bit.
But took inspiration.
That's
allowed.
Yeah, so
great. Well, this has been Murder or Myth with your host Louise and Emma.
On this week's episode, my murder story was in fact a myth.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe, and now find us on all streaming platforms, including Spotify.
Slay. Join us next week for another thrilling adventure.
Remember, it's myth until proven murder.
Slay.
That was really good.
Thank you.